I heard the story of my birth 1,000 times. It was raining the day I was born. It was cold. It was dark. My mom says giving birth to me was so painful. She actually thought she was going to die. She describes the pain as lightning and thunder exploding in her belly, shattering her insides into a million pieces to create the perfect storm. I was the perfect storm. In nature, for the perfect storm to happen, 3 distinct weather events must collide. Warm wind must blow from the east, cool wind must blow from the west, and humidity must rise from the south. On December 6, 1979, I was born because 3 distinct and exceptional events collided too. In 1915, my grandparents survived the Armenian genocide. 1.5 million Armenians were killed during the genocide, but not my family, at least not my entire family. My grandparents somehow managed to survive, march across the desert, and settle down in Lebanon. In 1975, the Lebanese Civil War started. 200,000 Lebanese died, and more than 1 million fled the country, but not my family. My family decided to stay and somehow managed to survive again. In 1978, my parents met, fell in love, got married, and decided not only to survive, but to thrive somehow against all odds. I spent the first 40 years of my life trying to live up to the expectations of that perfect storm. Being born at the intersection of survival, war, love, pushed me constantly to be the best. I had to be the fastest. I had to be the loudest. I had to be perfect. When I was 9, I decided what I wanted to be when I grew up. You see, in our family, girls grow up to be teachers, and boys grow up to be preachers. But I wanted to be boss lady. So when I was 9, I promised myself that by the time I'm 30 years old, I will be living in a big house with stairs, driving a BMW, wearing a Donna Karan suit, marching into a boardroom in stilettos, telling people what to do. When I was 18, I came to Dubai. And when I came to Dubai, I did what I assume most of us do when we first come to Dubai. I got a job, a house, and a car. And then I got a better job, a bigger house, a faster car. And then I got the bestest job, the biggest house, and the fastest car. I worked for the biggest companies. I traveled the world. I bought the X5, the M5, the Z4. My husband bought the Porsche. I bought the shoes, the bags, I bought the suits. By 2010, I was at the peak of my career. I was 30, and I was boss lady. I spent 15 years chasing the thrill of the storm. I spent 15 years being the fastest, the loudest, being the best. But, you know, the thing with storms is that they don't last forever. Yes, they are relentless, powerful, and stubborn, but they are also short-lived and seasonal. And no matter how strong, how powerful, how perfect they are, one day they will stop blowing. My storm faded the day I became a mom, when I was pushed out of my job, when I lost the suits, when I lost the bags and the shoes. And with them, I lost my identity. In my head, my self-limiting beliefs told me that being a full-time mom meant that I couldn't chase the storm anymore. They told me that I couldn't be who I once was, that big, shot, powerful, successful, ambition woman I spent a whole life creating and being. And they told me I wasn't strong enough. They told me I wasn't good enough. They told me I wasn't perfect. You know what was the worst thing? The worst thing was when people kept on asking me, what do you do? What do you do, Mariana? I hated that question, hated it. I would tell them, I don't do. I would say, I'm a mom. What? You're a mom? Only a mom? Just a mom? You mean you don't have a job? You don't have a career, no ambition? What happened to you, woman? You used to be somebody. And then one day, I wake up to find that my credit card is blocked. So I call the bank to check what's going on, thinking that they will tell me this is just a regular system maintenance and my card will go back working soon. But to my surprise, the gentleman on the phone tells me that, ma'am, your card is blocked because the bank doesn't have a copy of your employment contract. So I tell the gentleman on the phone, the bank doesn't have a copy of my employment contract because I am a mom, but I will gladly send you the birth certificate of my son. Sorry, ma'am, he says, I don't seem to find that job title in our database. How do you spell mom again? Up until that point, I was fighting the demons inside of me, trying to convince myself that I matter without a job, trying to convince myself that I am someone still, regardless of a job title and an office. But to hear a complete stranger on the phone judging me, rejecting me for the same reasons that I have been rejecting myself for years, pushed me at the bottom of a slum. I spent 15 years chasing the thrill of the storm to find myself in the aftermath of the storm, isolated, broken, humiliated, sobbing on the bathroom floor. I lost my identity because I lost my job. But we can lose our identity when we lose a loved one, when we change jobs, when we change countries, when we change schools. We can lose our identity when we get married, when we're going through a divorce. We can lose our identity when we fail big time for the first time, and when we stop winning as fast and as often as we used to. My identity crumbled because I attached who I am with what I do. My identity crumbled because the stories I heard didn't match my reality. And my identity crumbled because I resisted change. The problem is we think who we are and what we do is permanent and should define us forever. Because we worked so hard to get to where we are, we think we should justify our efforts by holding on tight to what we've got. But I realized that, no. I realized that identity is seasonal. And it needs to happen in seasons and stages. And in every stage, our environment will change, our community will change, our role will change. Just like nature can't survive and thrive in a constant state of storm, so can't we. Just like storms change power, intensity, and direction, so do we. We're not idle, we're not fixed, we're not static. We can't say, here I am, this is it, I'm here. So what? But what's next? What now? our life assignment, our purpose will change throughout the seasons of our life. In my 20s, in my 30s, I was making great things happen in the corporate world. Now, in my 40s, in my new role in this new season, I am making great people happen in my community. I am initiating conversations that matter on women, on motherhood, on identity. And I am offering stages and spaces for women, for mothers, to trust their voice and share their stories. Because when I became a full-time mom, I suffered in silence. I suffered in silence, thinking that I was the only mother who was broken, I was the only mother who didn't know what to do with her new role, with her new identity. I felt I was the only one because I couldn't find my story in Instagram. I couldn't find my story in the news or on TV. I couldn't find my story in best-selling books and in blockbuster movies. Do you know that game children play, Marco Polo? You know, one child calls Marco and they try to find each other, but the other group calling Polo. Well, that's me now on this stage. That's me now in the calm of my storm, shouting out, Marco, Marco, to every person, every woman, every mother, to say, here I am. I will find you. You are not alone. I always say I wasn't born a writer. I became one because I had a story to tell. And I say I didn't publish my book to become a best-selling author. I published my book to move the narrative from what you do to who you are. I published my book to mobilize our stories because I realized, and now I understand, that my story matters. Your story matters. And every single story that is not being represented in Hollywood matters. Your identity is your story. Start telling the stories only you can tell. Loudly, proudly, unapologetically. For me, for now, in this story, in this season, I am a mom. I am a mom fully and completely. Actually, I am the mom I always wanted to be. Before the world told me I wasn't enough. You don't need to wait for permission, Mariana. My therapist one day told me. She said, you have the power. The power is in you. You gave the power to the job, she said. You gave the power to the house with the stairs. You gave the power to the suits and the shoes. Now it's time for you to give the power to your voice. Give the power to your story. And so I did. I let go of my self-limiting beliefs. I set free my old me so that I can write my own story, my new story. And I ask myself, how do I want to be remembered in the story? What do I want my life to be about? How do I want my story to end? And I realized I didn't want my life to be about jobs, titles, and awards, because as all my managers used to tell me, Mariana, you are as good as your last deal. And I didn't want to be as good as my last deal, not anymore. I didn't want to be remembered as boss lady. I wanted to be remembered for telling my story. The world is listening. What's your story? This was my story. how I navigated the change of life, how I navigated the seasons of life, how I trusted my new role, how I empowered my voice, how I believed in my new identity. And in the process, they were lessons I could have only learned facing the storm. And they were blessings I could have only earned conquering the storm. And there's a rainbow I could have only found in the calm of the storm. And his colors shine brighter, and his light spreads wider, and he fills the world with hope, love, and laughter, because he was born from inside the perfect storm. I am the perfect storm. You are the perfect storm. Raw, real, relentless, ever changing, ever shifting, ever growing. Thank you.